Welcome everyone to the second to last SmashPod of the year, the pre Super Bowl one. We will need to do a post Super Bowl one to actually set our hats. So we will need to do one of those.
We can figure out if we can do it in person. I could just kind of come over and we can figure out if we can actually just do like a full um, hat show or something, however we're going to do it.
Yeah. Let's do a fashion show with all the hats. Like I said, I don't think I even own that many hats. I'm gonna have to borrow hats from people to wear. But yeah. Before we jump into the Super Bowl, NBA trade deadline was earlier today. Any thoughts on anything that happened?
I mean, pretty quiet. Like outside of James Harden, Darius Garland, Zubac, and like 30 other major players. Who else even got moved? Right? No, it was funny. There was a tweet someone sent where they're like, "Hey, does anyone remember like the 1997 trade deadline where?" Is two guys, only two players got traded. They're both like very marginal into the bench players. And now it is kind of interesting. I mean, we debate good or bad. We can debate if the NBA should do something about this. We've basically entered a period, in baseball and in the NFL, feels like there's a lot of parity, and teams really feel like they can rebuild quickly. You could be, I mean, look at the Seahawks, right? They weren't even a playoff team last year. They weren't even really on the radar.
Neither were the
And now this
Patriots.
year, yeah, and now they're both in the Super Bowl, right? So I think that in the NBA, it's kind of the opposite, which there's a lot more of a feeling of like, are we potentially elite contender? And if the answer is no, like, do we just blow everything up, tank hardcore, try to accumulate like future assets and rebuild? And 29 out of 30 teams are following that, which leads to like these blockbuster trade deadlines. And then the Sacramento Kings were just like, we are going to run on the treadmill of mediocrity for as long as we can, but we still might get the number one pick because even trying to win, we are not a good team.
I will say, I mean, the Sixers only made one move, which was the McCain move. I didn't love it. Honestly, like I think there's a huge risk there. Like if we don't
Yeah.
re-sign Grimes, like yeah, VJ and Maxi are probably your starting backcourt, but if you don't re-sign Grimes, like now you don't really have like and Epic McCain, like you know, Nick Nurse plays everybody like 40 minutes a night. Like that's just not a sustainable. Like you
Yeah.
need some depth there.
The
Um,
Thibodeau methodology.
yeah, yeah. I liked what Memphis got. I mean, Memphis for Bane, over last season, and then, um, you know, JJ. This like they got something like nine first round picks out of the two of them. Um,
Yeah.
Something crazy. I like what they did. I have no idea what the Bulls are doing. The Bulls just seem to be acquiring.
All guards. They literally have like, I mean, they've got Jalen Smith, who's more power forward. They've got Oktoberfest, or for that dude is who's they're like a 6'9" center, and they have all guards. Like literally, I was following on Twitter, and there's a Bulls guy I follow who was like, as a joke, was like, we need to sign one more guard, and then they announced they're signing like Mac McClurg, and he's like, no, guys, I was just joking. Do not mean you actually need to do that. Um, yeah, interesting. So two thoughts, like the McCain thing. Look, he's a small scoring guard. There's a part of me that wants to be like a bit overrated, and it's fine. You got a draft pick, but just trading to Presti, just the ultimate respect for Sam Presti. If even if I was ready to cut McCain, if Sam Presti called and was like, "Hey, how about I give you a first round pick for this guy?" I'd be like, "No," and play him 40 minutes a game the rest of the season. Um, Presti eventually learned to manipulate me by doing that, but I would still have a really good team in the meantime just by playing anyone that Presti wanted to acquire. I do agree with you on the Memphis front. Fascinating how they went from like the up and coming future
Yeah.
powerhouse team in 2022, right? 3 years ago, they are like the future of the league with Ja and Triple J and Bane and the rest of the role players.
Yep.
And it's, seemingly and probably still, I'm not trying to insult them here, but a just are they one step ahead of the game, analytically oriented front office to now totally blowing things up. They can't even get rid of Morant at a price anyone wants to pay, that they're willing to accept. Two of the guys gone, a bunch of future firsts, although some of them pretty mediocre, not a lot of upside. I mean, a first is a first, but these aren't like unprotected 2031 first round picks. Even these are like, top 20 protected or like the Thunder's pick, like, this year.
Yeah.
So interesting to see. On the flip side for Utah, though, I am fascinated by this because Ainge has earned credibility. Did a great job building the Celtics. Came to Utah, a few more teams, all kind of aware of the methodology back then, building to lose, that the Celtics and Sixers and other teams were doing. So maybe a little bit harder. So they've really put a lot of eggs in the like, we're going to get the number one pick and get a superstar, transcendent superstar basket. I'm not sure they've drafted particularly well. Collier, Cody Williams, a lot of guys were looking like they're bust. Obviously, way too early to saying about Ace Bailey or some of their other picks. So certainly not writing, the putting up saying that's all bad. They've wasted Markkinen's Laurie's prime for the most part, 3 years of it. So only 29 has got some time left, but still, those are three major prime years for a guy who's good enough NBA athleticism for his skill, but every step he loses is going to be felt
Hmm.
as he enters his 30s. And now they've got a guy in Jaren Jackson Jr. is a little bit polarizing, right? On the one hand, NBA skill set, he can shoot and he can play some defense and block some shots. On the other hand, his advanced stats have not been particularly impressive, and you know, has some holes defense guarding the post. Um, Terrible passer, terrible rebounder. Uh, so you start throwing together a lineup of him, Markkinen, Bailey. Like you've got a lot of Kessler, got a lot of guys there who don't pass. A lot of guys, a lot of holes in their game. At some point, it's going to be up to Ainge them to show like this is a legitimate team. I'm going to guess they bench everyone for the rest of this year. Pray that they get like Peterson or Boozer. If they don't, if they whiff on the draft again, at some point you got to ask like intentionally sucking is only a strategy for so long, right? At some point, beyond getting lucky with the number one pick, you've got to actually show some rostering. Anyway, I went on a bit of a
But
soapbox. What do you think?
I mean, I think the timing is a little weird. I would say, like, exactly to your point, like, it's not a bad team. I think adding, you know, Jaren Jackson and him and Markkinen, like, they have a, and let's say best case scenario, you hit the number one pick, right? Let's say you hit the number one pick and you bring in, Boozer or whoever, right? And, you know, what does that team look like? Is that team going to be better next year or in the next 3 years against the Thunder or the Spurs or, and you're going into like Wemby's prime, right? You're going into like that Spurs team is going to be stacked, assuming health, right? That Spurs team is going to be insane for, a period of time. And
Yeah, well,
when you,
and Nick Clifford, DeAndre Hunter, they're going to be entering their prime years for the Kings. So
yeah,
lot
you
of
know.
lot of tough competition out there. Devin Carter is going to start turning, 26, 27 at some point here. So
Yeah. I mean, I was always thinking it was like, do you plan generally for 3 or 4 years out when you think like, hey, the Thunder are going to start coming down? If I hit the number one pick, they're going to be going into the prime, going at like when Flag is hitting his mid 20s and, my number one pick is going to be hitting like that's when I really want to be going. And that doesn't really line up with Markkinen, like
no,
who's 29 and like he's gonna be 33, 34 at that point. And
I don't think you can over target, right? Like if you look at the history of the NBA, sometimes when it seems like teams are the strongest, the wheels come off, like we saw that with the Warriors. On the flip side, if right before the Warriors dynasty started, if you had said, man, the Lakers and Celtics are strong, I'm gonna, hold until it seems like, Kobe and the Celtics team and everything is coming down, then you would have like a 73 Warriors team, when Warriors team you're dealing with, and you probably would not be winning, right? I think
Right.
all you can really do is, if you have a chance to bring together an elite team, you do it. You hope you get a little bit of luck, and you keep enough. The really good teams stockpile assets when they're rebuilding. That's what concerns me about the Kings and us giving away Ellis in a second rounder to get off Schroeder's contract right now. You
Hmm.
stockpile the assets, and then when you've got that chance, a little bit like the Raptors did, they had a lot of talent. They brought in Leonard. They pushed their chips in the middle. They got rid of a few picks and stuff they'd been stockpiling to go get Marc Gasol. And they made a run. And there's no guarantee, right? They came up against the Warriors buzzsaw, but the Warriors imploded a little bit. They had a couple of injuries, and Toronto went home with a championship ring that's written
Yeah.
in stone for the rest of eternity. So
So I think you're right. You can't over target one or two teams. The difference is I think there's five or six teams in the West, right? Where it's like it's not if you put yourself into a position where like, yeah, we can be one of the two or three best teams, and then anything could happen, and you can make a run or what have you. Is a team with Markkanen, Triple J, and even hypothetically the number one pick, where are they better than, the fourth best team, fifth best team in the West? The West is just so stacked.
no, you're definitely. It's going to take them a couple of years to scale up, right? I think I'm not as precious as some players a little bit older. I mean, again, look at the Warriors, right? They got now two different GMs, different front offices. This wasn't all like intentionally done, but they got
Hmm.
David Lee, former All Star in the East, literally right before they started to take off, and eventually Lee got too old and they shipped him out. But in the meantime, the team developed, and then they brought in other players. So I think
Right.
you can rotate around players as long as you keep those assets and the flexibility. You
Yeah.
can have Markkinen as your team comes up. He can be the old veteran and still contributes when your
Yep.
other players are elite. And you can, let him ride off into the sunset, maybe trade him at the right time for assets and bring in
Yeah.
someone else that fits the timeline to play his role. The key is getting the right talent. So that'll be the question, right? Are the Jazz, do they have the right pieces? They're kind of the anti Thunder. The Thunder, and I don't mean that as a compliment necessarily. The Thunder, if you look at the way Sam Presti is built, and we've talked about this before, I think he saw some of the flaws of guys like Roberson and Kendrick Perkins. He has intentionally built a team where 1 to 5, every guy who gets major minutes can do everything. They
Yeah.
don't have, they're not elite at everything, but they don't have a weakness. Every guy can shoot, pass, dribble, defend. So, in the playoffs, if you have a guy like Roberson, teams start playing free, have a
Yeah.
free safety playing off of him.
Exactly.
You can't do that. Or, have a guy who can't really dribble and pass, you can chase him off the line. People talk about 3 and D. 3 and D players are kind of going away to some degree. Like, sure, you still want guys that can shoot and play defense, but if that's all they can do, guys like Thibault, you chase them off the line. If they can't do anything, defenses, especially in the playoffs, they can take advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
So you see fewer specialists. Like even the Thunder will have some guys like Isaiah Joe, but that's more into the bench. Hey, we need a
Hmm.
guy who can come and maybe be on a heater. The main, core 7 or 8, they're all very well rounded. Like no mistake that even their center is Holmgren, who can do all that stuff, right?
Right.
Anyway, long story short here, the Jazz are like the opposite. They've got a lot of players who are very like one or two dimensional. So um,
Yeah.
we'll see what Ainge is cooking. But
We'll
I have some
see.
questions.
Yep. Um, this weekend, final game of the year, Seahawks Patriots. Let's take a look at our game for the week. So SmashUp is live. If you haven't had a chance yet, go set your lineup for the Super Bowl. Um, the format is Flex 9 again, so you can pick any 9 players. Honestly, I was looking at the budget. You more or less could pick whatever you want. So I almost see this as, do you remember, Chris, when we talked about like, should we have a game mode in Smash Up where everyone can just has like the same lineup and it really
Yep.
depends on how well you play the cards? This is kind of it. Like more or less, you can pick if you wanted to, you could just say, I'm maybe outside of one or two players, like you could basically take the top 9 players if you want. So I imagine we're going to see a ton, and also with two teams, we're going to see a ton of just the same player lineups. But We have 24,000 in Smash card budget. So that's double your normal Smash card budget. So this is very much going to be a who can play the best cards type week.
Yeah, it should be fascinating. We've toyed with this in the past. I think even last year we scaled up some of the player costs so that people had to like make some player decisions. And this year we just said,
Yeah.
let's experiment. Let's see with more card budget if people can get really creative. We have more cards now than ever before. And so I'm really excited to see what people end up doing here.
I mean, why don't we just like let's pick a for the final one this week, let's just set a player lineup now, and then we'll each play our cards and see how we do just on cards.
Perfect. I will give you the honor of picking the player Haibo, and then I will jump into the app after this call and set my cards, and we'll see if I can make you wear
All right,
one final
so
hat.
clearly we're gonna take all the $4,000 players. Tommy DeVito is with the Patriots. Do you know that? I didn't know
I had no
that.
idea. No.
Oh man, Tommy DeVito. Um, all right, well, obviously JSN and Kenneth Walker for sure. And then we're gonna take both quarterbacks. I don't know
Yep.
why Darnold is questionable. I cannot imagine him not
He is fine.
playing this weekend. And then on the, Patriots side, gotta go with Diggs and Henderson.
Well, Ramadre's been the one who's been has actually been leading them in rushing yards.
You think so? You think we should go Ramondre here?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
for the moment. I think
Okay.
Henderson takes it over next year, but he's they've still been leaning on the veteran. I think maybe a little bit better of a pass blocker right now.
Okay. Um, do we want to take any of the defenses or kickers?
Let's do the kickers. Let's leave the defenses off. We're gonna call
Okay. No defenses.
actually wait. Let's do. Is it too creative to say? Let's take the two kickers, and then let's each take a defense, but we don't know who each other took, and that could be our one other potential
Okay.
point of difference beyond the cards.
Okay. So that's a lot of budget. I don't know if I want to take both kickers. How about this? Let's do these six plus Hunter Henry because I think Henry's probably like a.
All right.
And then we each pick a kicker and a defense. This should be enough. Yeah. Let's see. So even if we took to 34 plus 27 is 61, which we have enough. Okay. So let's do these seven, and then we each pick a kicker and a defense, and then we pick our cards.
All right, and may the best man wear avoid one final hat. I,
Yes.
I think I did win the conference championship one as well, so I think you are in double digits for hats right now. We are gonna have an entire Lou family fashion show on the
Honestly, I
final
yeah, I,
here.
I think I've won once this year. I think I'm one and whenever we started doing this, week 5 or whatever, I think I'm like 1 and 12 or something.
Honestly, I'm really disappointed in myself for losing that one. Almost, this is like the Patriots season a few years back, which actually, if we follow that pattern, would mean that you would win the
I know.
Super
I'm
Bowl.
I'm gonna win this week.
You're gonna Eli Manning this thing and take home a championship. Yeah, I feel like maybe whoever wins the Super Bowl, the loser should have to wear the biggest, goofiest hat of all. This could be your Eli Manning moment.
All right. All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Final Super Bowl picks here. Should we? I know we made some calls last. I think we went 1-1 last week on our picks. I took the Rams and was incorrect. You got Seattle. I took Patriots. You predicted the upset with oh god, what was the name of that? It was Stidham
Stidham,
starting for that 1 week. That did not come to fruition. But how about Super Bowl picks?
Seahawks. I think I gotta go with Seahawks.
Okay, well that's all right. That will be a little boring. I would say the Seahawks too, but give me to the Seahawks. I'll go ahead and take New England, and
Yeah.
we'll come back, and it'll be
You are a
one
Niners
more thing we
fan,
can
right?
contest.
The Seahawks can't win in your house, right? Like,
It's funny. This has come up again, and I may lose my 49ers fandom license over this, but I hated the old Seahawks, right? They were a big rivalry. I didn't like Pete. Pete Carroll because he'd been at USC. I'm a Bruin. So I already hated him from his time at USC. The Seahawks kind of took like Carroll was a little bit like cocky and brash, and the Seahawks
Mhm.
took on his personality. They also were one of those teams that were hard hitters, like a bit cheap, committed some penalties, would take your guys out and injure some players. I'm not saying they did it intentionally, but it was really easy to dislike them. I don't dislike this Seahawks team. I got nothing against McDaniels. Like Darnold, kind of a cool story. JSN, same thing. Cool dude. Walker, kind of, he's battled injuries, and now he's, looked like they might even get rid of him. Looked like he's losing his job, and now he's, been a hero in the playoffs. I hate that it was against us, but
Yeah.
like, I don't hate the Seahawks team. If they won, whether it be a little bit of NFC West rivalry, maybe, but
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I won't feel terrible about it. Kind of be like, good for them. It's a cool story. And
Yep.
ultimately, like, I feel good about my Niners too. I wouldn't care.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see how it goes this weekend. For everyone watching, make sure you go and set your lineups. Good luck this weekend. And yeah, we'll see you next week for the end of season wrap up and the hat spectacular.
All right. See you next week, everyone.
All
Have a
right.
good week.
Bye.
Good luck.